welcome everybody to Live Interactive English. I am your host, Shay.
And I am your other host, Kiki. And today we're talking about day 2 of the Panama Canal, a historic watercourse facing new challenges.
Aha. Okay, so in day 1, we talked about some of the challenges of having to build this watercourse. It took, hundreds of years to finally get it built, and it went through the hands of the French diplomat who wasn't able to get the job done.
Right.
Then the US came in and took control and improved the workers' conditions, and were able to complete it.
Yeah.
In, 1914?
That's right.
Right. And it's having some issues right now.
Yes.
It's facing issues because of, political disputes and
climate change. So actually, it's not, if you really look at the whole history of the Panama Canal, it's not just modern day that it's facing challenges.
Yeah.
It's actually had a lot of challenges throughout all the years.
Yeah. And right now, it happens to be in Panamanian control. The Panamanians basically own it and control it. And so I think in day 2, we're going to find out, some of these new challenges, why the canal is important, those kind of things. So why don't we go ahead and get right into it?
Why is the canal important? Before the Panama Canal, ships traveling from the Atlantic to the Pacific, or vice versa, had to sail around Cape Horn at the southern tip of South America. The Panama Canal reduced these journeys by several thousand nautical miles. This has made international trade cheaper, easier, and faster. Future risks. Despite its hugely important role, the canal is facing challenges. Recent droughts have reduced its water levels, and this has affected its ability to function. As such, Panamanian authorities are working on projects to deal with the risks posed by climate change.
Welcome to day 2 of the Panama Canal, a historic watercourse facing new challenges. In day 1 of the article, we learned about many challenges in its past about construction, money issues, workers' conditions.
Right, yeah.
Well, we're going to find out about some modern day challenges.
Okay, why don't we start off about talking about why is the canal important? Okay, before the Panama Canal, ships traveling from the Atlantic to the Pacific, or vice versa, had to sail around Cape Horn at the southern tip of South America.
Okay.
Now, that's a long way to go.
Yeah, that's a huge U-turn.
Yeah, that's a long ways to go, right? Yeah.
Okay, the Panama Canal reduced these journeys by several thousand nautical miles. Okay, you, Shane, are our resident naval guy.
Yeah, I was in the Navy, right?
Nautical miles? Like, what is that?
Well, a nautical mile, it's still a mile, but it's just, they use a special term called nautical miles. But it's thousands of miles.
That's still...
It's really a long way to have to go all the way around the tip of South America in order to do that. To just be able to go straight through really would make trade so much easier.
Yep. Well, this has made international trade cheaper, easier, and faster. Well, like you said, Shane, it cuts straight through instead of taking this huge detour.
Right, and it's a lot less money because there's a lot less travel, so it makes it cheaper and of course easier. You don't have to go as far and it doesn't take as long, so it's much faster. Right. So we have a vocabulary word, reduce. What does that mean?
Right.
To reduce.
We have this verb here, and to reduce is basically to make something less or to take away an amount or an area or things, if you want to make it smaller or to make it less. Okay. In this case, we're talking about reducing nautical miles. So the amount that they're traveling.
Reducing time.
Yeah. Okay. Reducing dangers on the ocean, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're trying to make less of something. An example sentence would be, we should take action to reduce pollution in our city.
Yeah, that's a very important
Very
thing,
important.
Especially in these big cities like that we live in Taipei. There's quite a bit of pollution, and that's a problem all over the world.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Hanny。今天的课文是先从巴拿马运河的重要性开始谈起。那在巴拿马运河开通前，从大西洋航行到太平洋的船只，反之亦然。那他们都是必须航行绕过南美洲南端的合恩角。那么巴拿马运河让这些航程减少了数千海里，使国际贸易变得更便宜、更轻松、更快速。好，单字 reduce 这个动词表示减少、降低，而文中它用到 vice versa， 这是副词用法，表达反之亦然，反过来也是一样的意思。Nautical mile 则是表达海里，它是海上航行的距离单位，其中的 nautical 是形容航海的。记录好课文中。
All right, so now we're going to move to future risks. Okay. Despite its hugely important role, the canal is facing challenges. So we have this vocabulary word despite, which is a preposition. It means used to show that something happened or is true, although something else might have happened to prevent it. So, for example, you could say, despite the heavy rain, they continued their trip.
Okay, so kind of like someone overcoming something tough and right?
Yeah, there's a challenge there.
Yeah.
And even though there's that challenge, you still go through with what you're going to do.
Okay, back to the article. Recent droughts have reduced its water levels, and this has affected its ability to function. Ooh. We know a canal obviously has to do with water, and if your water levels have lowered,
you have, some very big ships going through there, and they need, enough water so that they're not scraping against the bottom of the ocean, basically, right? So having low water levels is definitely going to have a huge impact on the ability for this canal to function correctly.
And the water levels are dropping because of droughts.
Yeah, what is drought?
So a drought is basically when an area experiences a long period of time of low rainfall. So it's not raining enough and it's not collecting enough water. And sometimes a drought can be to the extreme where there's no water at all.
Yeah, and that's surprising thinking being, like really so close to a rainforest that you would be getting plenty of rain. But because of, the environment and global warming and these kind of things, it really affects the world and water levels in very strange ways.
Right, and to be just in between two huge oceans.
Right, exactly. Interesting. Okay, so as such, Panamanian authorities are working on projects to deal with the risks posed by climate change. Okay, so when we say the authorities are working on projects, an authority is the people or an organization who have the power to make decisions or who have a particular area of responsibility in a country or region. And when we say authority, we typically are using this in plural. We'll say the authorities. So for example, you can say the local authorities are working to improve public safety.
尽管运河扮演着非常重要的角色，但它也面临着挑战。最近的旱灾导致水位下降，影响了运作能力。那巴拿马当局正在进行一些计划来应对气候变迁所带来的风险。单字 despite 它是介系词，表达尽管、虽然，后面要接名词或动名词。Drought 则是旱灾。Authority 表示官方、当局或者是行政管理机构。那注意，它当官方、当局来解释时，固定用复数型。好，那我们接着回到课文中。
Okay, so it sounds like we're definitely having some issues with the Panama Canal. And the Panamanians are working to try to solve these issues, but, it sounds like a tough problem with global warming and these environmental impacts. It's going to be tough. So let's take a short break and find out what's going on now.
However, any measures to deal with these problems could require years of planning and construction. The canal's future is also up in the air due to the election of U.S. President Donald Trump. Trump has said he wants the U.S. to retake control of the waterway. He claims doing so is necessary for the economic and military stability of his country. It's unclear what impact climate change will have. We also don't know whether Trump's statements on this issue hold any water. But no matter what happens to the Panama Canal, the watercourse is certain to affect global affairs for years to come.
Welcome back. Before the break, we learned a little bit about why the Panama Canal is so important.
Right.
Because it really helped trade between people that were in different sides of, the world.
Right, yeah.
Between two oceans, literally.
Yeah.
And with the building of this Panama Canal, it would cut the travel in between by thousands of miles.
Right.
Because you could just go straight.
Making it much quicker, much cheaper, it was just much more convenient.
That's right.
To have that canal.
But.
Yes, but.
In modern day, they start to face some other problems.
Yep.
The most devastating is climate change.
Yeah.
Because of the droughts, the water levels dropping.
Yep.
It was just not enough water for the boats to get through.
To pass through, right. Exactly, right.
Yeah, and on top of that, there's also political disputes. Governments wanting to take control of the Panama Canal.
All right, so let's continue now and find out how this ends up. However, any measures to deal with these problems could require years of planning and construction. Of course, as we know, just getting it built took hundreds of years. Trying to face these problems now in a modern time, I'm sure will be, it will probably maybe be 10, 20 years or something, but it's definitely going to require a lot of time because you have to reconstruct things or do new construction.
You need money.
The planning of it, you need money. You need resources.
Okay, so the canal's future is also up in the air due to the election of U.S. President Donald Trump.
Now, when we say something's up in the air, we just mean that it's uncertain right now, right? Yeah.
Trump has said he wants the U.S. to retake control of the waterway. Okay, so we know in 1977, President Jimmy Carter gradually gave the canal back to Panama.
Right.
But now, Trump wants to take it back.
Wants to retake the control of it, right? All right, so we have a vocabulary word, election.
Right.
What does that mean to have an election?
To have an election is basically to go through this process where the people can vote to make a decision or to vote to get someone into a position of power.
Right.
Okay, we have an example sentence. Giles hoped that the election of the new president would be good for his country.
Yeah, we often have that hope that when there is a new president, things are going to change, but oftentimes things always just stay the same or get worse. But we won't talk about that.
巴拿马运河所面临的挑战中，极具破坏力的就是气候变迁。Kiki 老师用到一个形容词 devastating， 它是拼作 devastating。 devastating 可以形容是毁灭性的、极具破坏力的。课文接着写到，巴拿马运河的未来也因为美国总统川普的当选而前途未卜。那么，川普曾经表示，他希望美国重新掌控这条水道。好，单字 election， 他表示当选或是选举。刚刚说运河的未来前途未卜，那这边要介绍的是 be up in the air， 它是表达悬而未决、尚未确定。这个片语要用事物来当主词。举例来说。The release date of the movie is still up in the air. 那部电影的上映日期仍尚未确定。好，接回课文中。
All right, so Trump, we're talking about, right? He claims doing so is necessary for the economic and military stability of his country. We're referring to the United States of America. Now, when we say economic, right, we're talking about economic stability. Economic just means connected with the trade, industry, and development of wealth of a country, an area, or a society. So, for example, you could say, the government introduced new economic policies to help businesses.
That's right. It's unclear what impact climate change will have. We also don't know whether Trump's statements on this issue hold any water.
Yeah.
Hold any water. Okay.
That's
so even though right now Trump says he wants this to happen to the Panama Canal, the canal also faces climate change issues. So we don't know what's going to happen. So here we have this vocabulary word, which is issue. An issue is basically a topic that has kind of come into conversation or discussions because it's important to talk about it. But usually issues are kind of negative. It means that there is a problem going
right.
on.
You and I don't have any issues.
No, we don't, despite our chocolate chip cookie dispute.
Okay.
Okay, an example sentence is, climate change is a global issue that affects people's daily lives.
All right. Continuing, but no matter what happens to the Panama Canal, the Watercourse is certain to affect global affairs for years to come. All right, so we have a what do you think question.
That's right. And I'm going to ask you, Shane, do you think it's fair that President Trump wants the U.S. to control the Panama Canal again? Why or why not?
Well, I'm not sure if it's fair, and I have to say that I'm not a very political person, and I'm not very educated on all the nuances and the specifics of what is going on and what he is trying to do. But if the canal is having problems and the U.S. could take control over it again and fix those problems, that will have worldwide implications. It really could make it for the whole world to have better trade, basically. So I don't know if that's really the case, but so I'm going to just stay neutral on this. I don't know if it is fair or not, but I can imagine that, with some of the money coming from the U.S., we could fix some of these problems.
I think that's a very fair answer. Okay. At the end of the day, it's about how everyone can be good.
Exactly.
Right?
川普希望美国能够重新掌控巴拿马运河，他宣称这样做对他的国家的经济跟军事稳定是必要的。Economic 就可以形容是经济的、经济上的。那课文最后提到气候变迁会有什么冲击还不清楚，我们也不知道川普对这个议题的表态是否站得住脚。但无论巴拿马运河发生什么事，这条水道在未来几年一定会影响全球事务。好，那单字 issue 就是表达问题、议题。这边还有两个文法重点。一个是用 whether 引导名词子句，可以当受词去表达是否怎么样，之后可以接 or not， 那也可以把 or not 移到子句的最后，像是 I don't know whether or not she's a vegetarian， 也可以说 I don't know whether she's a vegetarian or not， 我不知道她是否吃素。那第二个重点是 no matter 之后接 WH 疑问词，可以引导让步副词子句，表达无论怎么样，不管怎么样，像是No matter what you do, Don't open that door. 不管你做什么，不要打开那一扇门。最后补充一下，诗颖老师在回答 What do you think 的时候呢，他提到说他不太谈政治，可能只了解概况，对一些细微差异不太清楚。那假设美国接手能够化解危机，这会对全球许多国家造成影响，也许可以促进国际贸易。但是老师觉得他还是要采取这个中间立场。好，补充一下，老师用到 educated。educated， 它是形容受过教育的或是有教养的，还有提到 nuance，nuance， nuance 这个名词表示细微差异，还提到 implication，implication，这个字表示可能的影响、可能的后果。老师还提到 neutral，neutral 可以形容中立的。好，那接着回到课文中。
All right, that's all the time we have for the Panama Canal. We hope you enjoyed the lesson, and we will see you next time.
Why is the canal important? Before the Panama Canal, ships traveling from the Atlantic to the Pacific, or vice versa, had to sail around Cape Horn at the southern tip of South America. The Panama Canal reduced these journeys by several thousand nautical miles. This has made international trade cheaper, easier, and faster. Future risks. Despite its hugely important role, the canal is facing challenges. Recent droughts have reduced its water levels, and this has affected its ability to function. As such, Panamanian authorities are working on projects to deal with the risks posed by climate change. However, any measures to deal with these problems could require years of planning and construction. The canal's future is also up in the air due to the election of U.S. President Donald Trump. Trump has said he wants the U.S. to retake control of the waterway. He claims doing so is necessary for the economic and military stability of his country. It's unclear what impact climate change will have. We also don't know whether Trump's statements on this issue hold any water. But no matter what happens to the Panama Canal, the watercourse is certain to affect global affairs for years to come.
最后，我们来复习今天课文里的单字文法。单字的部分有 reduce 是动词，表示减少、降低 ；despite 是介系词，表达尽管、虽然 ；authority 这个名词表示官方、当局或者是行政管理机构。Election 名词表示当选、选举 ，economic 可以形容经济的、经济上的 ，issue 这个名词表示问题、议题。那文法的部分，第一个我们学到 be up in the air 表示悬而未决、尚未确定，必须用事物当主词。第二个学到 whether 引导名词子句可以当受词去表达是否怎么样，那可以加入 or not 写作 whether 点点点 or not， 或者是 whether or not 点点点。第三个学到的是 no matter 加 WH 疑问词引导副词子句就可以表达无论怎么样、不管怎么样。好，那以上今天的讲解，同学别走开，马上回来哦。
I don't think I can do another set.
Come on, you got this. It's time to go into beast mode.
Beast mode? What's that? Turning into a werewolf or something?
No. Going into beast mode just means giving it your all, giving it your full potential, like a wild beast.
Oh, I see. I guess I do have to step up my game. Beast mode, activate. Hey everyone, today's term is beast mode.
Yes, this popular slang term is used to describe someone going all out to achieve their goal, as if they've transformed into a beast.
Right. It's like a switch flips, and suddenly you're pouring all your strength and determination into accomplishing what's in front of you.
The term is often used in sports and fitness, but you can apply it to any area of life where you need to push yourself.
like when you study all night for an exam or work tirelessly to finish a pressing task.
Exactly. Here's how to use it in a sentence. She went beast mode on the treadmill, running at full speed for 30 minutes straight.
Or he went beast mode and pulled an all-nighter to finish his coding project.
So next time you need to conquer a challenge, remember to go beast mode.
And that's our lesson for today.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.